this matchup, I truly believe, is going to surprise a lot of fans on both sides of the spectrum. One with kind of an optimistic expectation coming in on the road. That's the Wisconsin Badgers. I guess you can get a consensus of the fan base, right? And you kind of get a feel of how this game is feeling for everybody amongst the two fan bases. And I think there's a mutual feeling amongst the two fan bases, and there's one that's expecting an improvement from their last showing, and that's Alabama, who's expecting to continue to improve and showcase their dominance against a team on paper that seems to be a little bit undermatched, but still a prestigious program that should be respected and is going to play physical and cause us to test another level of what our team is consisted of. So as we get into that conversation tonight, man, I'm glad that you're here to speak on behalf of the Badgers, but we're going to cross-reference this thing a little bit. So I know we don't have a lot of time with you. Just overall, Raj, if you don't mind if I call you Raj, your name puts me in the mind of my brother, man. We served together, and I think it was Rajekeiv or something like that was his real name, and we just called him Raj, and the first part of your name just reminds me of that. So if you don't mind, my brother Raj is representing. Give me your thoughts, man, on what this brings, this kind of game, what type of attention it brings to your program from the outside looking in, and as someone that covers the Wisconsin Badgers.
Well, it's obviously good to always have these preseason matchups. I think too many teams nowadays are trying to get rid of Power 4 opponents, and I, for one, don't like that. I think, obviously, having Bama on our schedule is tough, considering the Big Ten schedule that we have ahead of us, which is we're the toughest schedule in the country, which is absolutely nuts. But having Alabama come to our place last year was cool. It was great. Sadly, we lost our quarterback in the first quarter to a torn ACL, and we'll have to see what this week brings. But I was actually hoping to get down to Tuscaloosa. I've never been down there. Would love to see it, but it's not going to work. But yeah, I mean, there's not a ton of expectations, but given the opponent and everything. But after week one, honestly, there's certainly some more confidence that can come from that, given that you all didn't play your best game, and obviously things got a little better in your second week, but against a weaker opponent. But yeah, it's exciting. It's really kind of one of these things where it's not really a win-win situation for us, obviously, but we don't have a lot to lose. We're not expected to win. Anything we do down there hopefully pushes the program a little bit forward and gives us a good launching point into the Big Ten slate.
100%. Jackson, we talked about this yesterday with Ryan, man, and I think people they didn't hear us. I would like to kind of reiterate. What does this mean for, in your eyes, Jackson, a program like Alabama inviting a team like Wisconsin's in? A team that doesn't necessarily dominate their conference, but they always find themselves in the middle of games. Like at the end of games, you see Wisconsin over the years. I mean, the past 5 or 6 years, where they're in the third quarter, they're in games they're not supposed to be in. And this is a team that sticks to kind of like their identity, that traditionally what their makeup is, and that's physicality in the trenches. You got sound defensive play by this Wisconsin team year in and year out. And then offensively, it's kind of like they kind of find an identity, week 5 and week 6. What's your take on what this game means for this Alabama team, not traditionally a historical Alabama team, but the 2025 Alabama team going up against this Wisconsin Badgers roster?
Well, honestly, I think that 2025 for Alabama, like we had a horrible week in week 1, of course, but then we rebounded nicely in week 2. But we're looking to rebound nicely in week 3 again against Wisconsin. And if you put enough pressure on Danny O'Neal, you'll be good to go. If the rushing game on offense can just demolish that Wisconsin defense, you're going to be more than good to go. That's going to be a key matchup. Like the Wisconsin defense against the Alabama running game, that is going to be a key matchup. If you stifle the running game, which is what Florida State was doing in week 1, then Wisconsin's good to go.
Yeah.
If Alabama can make sure that their running backs are rocking and rolling and making sure that Richard Young is getting rolling and Dre Washington and Ackland Deer is getting all those carries and they're getting all those yards, they'll be ready to go for a victory in Tuscaloosa.
100%. I'm right there with you. And I look at the comments as they come in now. Hey, I think we are not far removed from trolling other teams that coming in or showing up and giving us a matchup unexpectedly. This is a different era of college football. And I said that going into the Florida State matchup, and I'm going to say that going into this matchup because, one, a spot where we have struggled, and this is a key matchup, and I'm going to pass it to you next, Raj, to get your thoughts on this key matchup. A spot where Alabama has struggled the past 4 years, not even just last year under Kalen DeBoer, but the last 2 years under Coach Saban. We saw our struggles on the offensive line. We saw our struggle on the defensive front and getting pressure with our defense, our 4-down linemen or our defensive front. One thing that Wisconsin has been consistent on throughout their history under Luke Fickell, under their most recent history under Luke, is the fact that you have one thing is consistent. The O-line is going to have some continuity. They're going to be what they are, and they're going to produce in what they do. That's the run game, physical run game. With this offense trying to expand a little more, become a little bit more balanced, you see the pass game starting to evolve with a set of quarterbacks that's a little bit more athletic than what you're used to. We saw that transition begin to happen last year before Tyler got hurt. And I think even if he doesn't get hurt last game, Alabama wins, but not the same way. Not in the same fashion, not in the fashion where it looks like the Wisconsin offense just doesn't look like it has an identity. This year, I think you're a little bit more prepared. And in those type of games, the trenches matter. And if I had to go in and bet my money right now, I would not be 100% comfortable betting all of my earnings on Alabama's first five on the offensive line or Alabama's first front. 1 week of dominance does not change my thoughts on where we need our development. So I think one of the key matchups that we're going to have to see, and that's going to help this game play out, and either whoever can start getting the wins early in the trenches, that's with the O-line and the defense and the defense line, and in particular, the Alabama offensive line versus the Wisconsin defensive front, which is where I think their strength is. What do you think the key matchup is in this Saturday's matchup for Wisconsin to be favored in order to have a chance to win this game?
Yeah, you say it right, man. It's the trenches is everything. And typically, a Wisconsin program is dominant at the offensive line. Typically. That is without question the weakest point of our team this year, mainly because we've had a couple injuries. We lost our starting left tackle in spring. We brought in someone in the transfer portal, Davis Heinzen. It did not really work out that well in week one. So in week two, we've shuffled our entire offensive line. Week two brought four linemen starting in different positions than they did in week one. Only our left guard, Joe Brunner, was in the same spot. Our starting right tackle, Riley Mallman, moved over to the left. Our starting right guard moved out to right tackle. And we've got two other guys, inexperienced guys, playing center and right guard. There's a possibility that our starting center, Jake Renfro, returns this week. We need that. That would be a huge lift for the offensive line. It's really, honestly, man, it's the only unit on the team right now that's not played well through 2 weeks. I mean, the defense has played far better. So the biggest question for us is, can our O-line hold up? Now, we know the kind of talent that Alabama has on their defensive line. Everybody knows that, and that's going to be difficult. Can we run the ball? I would tell you right now, Badger fans are not very confident in our ability to run the ball. Typically what we do well, but because our line is so injured and kind of broken right now, that's going to be an issue. The other side, though, our defensive line got far better in the offseason through the transfer portal and bringing up some guys from young guys up through recruiting. We got a lot bigger. We had only one defensive tackle over 300 pounds last year. Now we have 10 on the roster. So we're playing 5 or 6 defensive tackles just in those interior spots. We got a defensive end, Mason Reiger, out of Louisville, who's had done really, really well so far. All of a sudden, our defensive line is playing well, and our entire defensive unit's playing well. We've allowed 10 points in 2 games. I know it's against lesser opponents, but we allowed Miami of Ohio 117 yards and no points the first week. So that's definitely a plus. Can we affect Alabama's offensive line? I don't know, but I think it's going to be a little tougher to run on us than maybe Alabama fans think it will be. Yeah. So I think hopefully a little bit more like the Florida State game in that regard. But contrarily, can we run on you? That's going to be the real issue because our offensive line is definitely a problem right now.
100%. And I'm looking at the chat. Everybody's so confident about their scouting reports when it comes to guys missing out. But this is a team that saw a lot of movement in the offseason as far as personnel. You saw a lot of changes on both sides. So when you don't have as much production, quote unquote, returning, and last year, let's be honest, I believe Wisconsin fans would say that last year was an inconsistent season offensively. I truly believe you all would say that, and not in a sense of you couldn't do anything, but when you found like you felt something or felt like you found something, injury happened, a major injury happened to where you moving the offensive lineman somewhere he's not used to playing, or a tight end's getting asked to be in passing situations that he's not used to being in. So I think this year, because of the lack of continuity, that's what has caught in Alabama off guard. Not being prepared and of course effort. But you said something about your offensive run game. If somehow, because of how things have been put together through your injuries and things, if you all found a spark and something that you could work with, I think that presents a problem for my defense, who's just now coming into a phase of flying around against ULM. Seeing hesitancy week one, then seeing a complete 180. We have yet to see the median of what type of performance we can get. So if Wisconsin comes in and punches us in the mouth early, doing something offensively that we weren't quote unquote prepared for, and our effort isn't there, we can see a similar flow like we did against Florida State. But if I had to go with my best bet, if the best products show up, I think just like you said, because of all the switches on the offensive line for Wisconsin, the way this defensive line was getting pressure, and I mean, 7 total pressures on the quarterback last game with 0 sacks. You still was able to force 2 turnovers in the game. You had 12 tackles for losses by this defense, and 9 of those tackles were made by guys in the front 7. So you got to be kind of confident that this defense is picking it up as far as where they need to be, how they need to be, and securing tackles with a little bit of effort. So for that reason, and like I said before we came in, I just told him, I said, if we hadn't lost week 1 to Florida State, I could see this being one of those games where it could be in question. But with this defense and how hungry they are, and the amount of questions going into week 3 for Wisconsin's offense, I think your front will suffer this weekend. Not in a major way to the point where it's like Wisconsin shouldn't have showed up, but you'll see the attrition start to show up late in the second quarter, early in the third quarter, to create that big 8, that mid 8 minute spread. The last 4 minutes and the first 4 minutes of the third quarter, where you're trying to gain that extra possession or gain that ground, gain that momentum. And I think that's where you see the separation at. So that's the main key. Jackson, if you had to pick a position to watch out for when it came to the Alabama-Wisconsin matchup this week, what's one that you want the fan bases to be excited about or to be looking at?
I want everybody to be looking out for the running backs. That's what I want everybody to look out for.
You was on wide receivers last week. Now you want the running backs. If I had to guess, Jackson,
Alabama, Wisconsin, we think about running
physicality.
Back.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
That's right there with you. So when I look at it, I'm more interested in those trenches though. That's where I think the run game it either starts or it can't get started because of how effective your trenches are. Raj, and I think we kind of have a good idea of where your heart is with this game. Overall, give me a rundown defensively what you can see Wisconsin doing. And this is the part of the game where I think Wisconsin can even the game out, for an extended amount of time, to give the offense time to figure some things out. If you all can find a way to limit Alabama's offense to be in one phase with still finding some identity on our offensive side, where would the effectiveness be, and how do you see this defense measuring up against this Alabama offense?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things, first of all, is Ryan Williams definitely out this week? Is he playing or?
My prayer is that he is. I like the development that I've seen behind him with all the other receivers. Even in the past game, it seemed to flow a lot better, even though it was ULM. But apparently he's still day-to-day. There is no definitive answer of his availability for this Saturday. I'm hoping as a coach, I'm hoping he takes this extra week to, get himself together and make sure that the concussion and everything is out the way. Give yourself time to condition your body and everything to get back into game shape. But he's been very light with duty in practice, so it's doubtful at this point.
And that obviously is certainly a slight benefit to us. You're talking about one of the best wide receivers in the country. There's no doubt about that. We don't have the ability to cover Ryan Williams, as very few teams in the country can. Really, no one can. Maybe Ohio State. But so, I mean, really from a defensive standpoint, we're pretty experienced all across the board. We've got a really good cornerback in Rico Hallman, someone that Alabama was trying to poach in the offseason a bit. We've got experienced safeties as well. The strength of our defense right now is our inside linebackers. Christian Allegro's had a great start to the season. 3 tackles for loss, 7 or 11 total tackles. We've got, and as I mentioned earlier, our pass rush, which really wasn't there before, is there now. We brought in Mason Riger. Our defensive tackles are playing better. So I'm very much hoping that I think Alabama expects to be able to run the ball on us like they did last year. I don't think that we are a much different defense than we were last year. That is very clear. We're much closer to a typical Wisconsin defense now than we were the last couple of years. So hopefully we can create some pressure on Ty Simpson. And he didn't look obviously that great against Florida State. And if we can get him off the spot and maybe force him into a couple turnovers, I think we can keep the game a little closer, as you said, to give our offense some time to hopefully move the ball on them. But we have an experienced secondary enough, at least on one side. The other side is a young guy, redshirt freshman Emilio Agard. But we've got a lot of depth there as well. So hopefully we can stop the run, force you to put Ty Simpson in tough situations, get him off the spot. If our pass rush is effective, and if we can get by Alabama's offensive line, I think we have a chance at limiting some of the big plays that Alabama can have. And of course, without Ryan Williams, that helps us. That allows us to go one step down on our best corner can go to your number 2 now. And then that hopefully helps us out a little bit on the board. But I think our defense is going to surprise Alabama fans. That's definitely something that's been. Now, listen, maybe Alabama scores 50 and I'm just, full of crap. Who knows, right? But we expect to see a solid performance on that side of the ball. And then hopefully we can make some moves offensively.
100%, man. And I agree with you with your defense. I think your strengths are right there at the inside linebacker position and your secondary when it comes to the matchups against Alabama. I just think right now up front, you don't have that deep rotation that you would want with a team that doesn't. And I truly believe in order for Alabama to truly have success, like consistent success in this game, you have to have an effective run game. In this matchup, personally, because I look at Ricardo Harmon, I look at Austin Brown, those guys on the back end. Your other corner, I think it was you said Agard, the red shirt freshman. His growth from last year to this year, you can tell that it's there. Mm-hmm. What it looks like against Alabama, maybe it doesn't look as fluid, but I don't want to chance that early in the game. I would rather force those guys to come inside the box, supporting some run support, make sure that force them to fill their run gaps, their run fits correctly coming down from the second level or containing on the edge from their corner positions, and then start to test them in the pass game, because I think Ricardo Harmon is, top 5 cornerbacks that's eligible for the draft this year. He was a guy that was eligible last year. Could have went early second round, late first round, last season. Same thing. We got a similar guy like that in Cam Calhoun out the portal. I don't even think Bama fans remember when Ricardo Harmon was rumored to be entering the portal, or one of the guys that was going to be a top target in the portal. It was Ricardo Harmon, Cam Calhoun, and then the young man from Texas that Alabama was truly targeting to get out of the portal. Ricardo Harmon is a guy that if push come to shove, if Ryan Williams is in his game, I think he's the guy that gets the float and mirror Ryan Williams, because you have some skilled younger guys that you can kind of put into specific assignments. So I don't look past Wisconsin's defense as a whole, just because of their discipline traditionally and what they do. They stay home. They're 4-2-5, they call it a 2-4-5, but they still have a 4-man front. With they just design it differently with 4 linebackers on the field instead of having another defensive lineman. They bring a 4th linebacker on the field to act as one of their edge guys. And when you have that type of system, you expect to be able to run, but you have some solid tackling coming from the second level, from the interior guys that can cover ground laterally. How often can Alabama push that and push the envelope with those 2 areas on the field? I love the matchups, and like I said, as an unbiased take here, I just think right now Alabama has the numbers to give Ricardo Harmon, Austin Brown, and your freak safety very aggressive in filling and run fits. Play action is going to kill that gentleman. I guarantee you, Ryan Grubb is ready to send the interior run game at him, because he's a solid run fit safety. But in those play action situations where guys can really hold you up for that extra split second that you need to plant your feet and get that ball downfield, get that guy running past you, the type of second level speed, third phase route concepts that Alabama's going to turn, I guarantee you they're drilling your safeties in his brain. Do not bite on the play action unless you see the ball handed off. I guarantee you that's a motive of conversation this week prepping for Alabama with Wisconsin's defense. So I'm excited for the matchup. Honestly, the Wisconsin secondary, their second level, not just secondary, but the second level, meaning the inside linebackers and the secondary versus this Alabama passing game, not just the run game, but the passing game. We've seen Ty Simpson so far this season. I think he's at a 70% clip right now for a completion percentage. The numbers right at 600 yards total passing. I think he has 5 total touchdowns, 6 total touchdowns coming into this game. So this is not by far the tip of, this is only the tip of the iceberg of what we've been able to see from this offense. And you got a aggressive defense in Wisconsin coming in. This is going to be a crazy good matchup to watch unfold